What's going on, creators? I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about fear addiction, drama addiction, chaos addiction. It all kind of is intertwined. It all kind of is the same thing. And how we can start to move out of that kind of slavery, victim mindset, type thing, and really getting into more of an empowered mindset, a creator mindset. I've gotten to a point with just listening to like truth channels, over the years. It's like I still dip into that shit from time to time, and it's I almost feel like sad. It's just like, this person is still on this victim mindset. It's just like they're putting their own power behind them. It's like they're enslaving themselves. And it's like whenever I hear victim mindset, I don't care what it is, where it's coming from, my knee-jerk reaction is, oh, that person's a slave. And my kind of goal, I guess, is to get people out of that mindset, into more of a free creator mind, which is possible. It exists right here, right now for anybody to tap into. But, to do that, you have to drop the spirals and the addictions to some they doing it to you, or I'm a victim of some external situation or circumstance. And to do that, you have to take radical responsibility of everything going on in your life, whether it's good or bad. It all stems from beliefs, actions that we've taken, all these kinds of things that we've done in the quote-unquote past that has led us to this present moment, which is now what we're reaping. And so keeping the mirror principle in mind as we start to really embrace the new creation that we are in Christ, it's important to take full responsibility that everything is working in accordance to a spiritual law, God's law, consciousness law, however you want to label this shit. It doesn't really matter. It's the law that says when I plant this seed, something will come up. And then when it does, what the victim mindset does is go, oh, well, I intended to plant a flower, but, I got a weed, so there must be something wrong with the seed. There must be something wrong with the dirt. There must be something wrong with the environment. Whatever the excuse is, those excuses are the programs running, unconsciously in our mind. And when we start to become aware of those programs, whenever we're maybe triggered, is a great time to become mindful of what we're thinking, because it is not hidden from us. Where in the past we get triggered and spiral and just continue to just fucking get more and more pissed off, or more and more just like, wanting to attack or have vengeance or whatever to this they or whatever. Instead of doing that, realizing, hey, what the problem is not the outer event. The outer event was a mirror, which now I'm like really fucking pissed off or whatever. But when you're doing that, what are you actually thinking? What was the thought that was instigating a lot of these emotions and reactivity? Well, from there, that's when you start to change how you're thinking. It's like, oh, I'm not a victim. Something that I'm doing in consciousness, those thoughts that were just, oh, fuck that person, I want to kill them, I want to attack them, or fuck this, that whatever, that's the problem. And when you start to stand in who you are in Christ and connect with the I am consciousness, the basically the consciousness of the end being the present, so it's like maybe the easiest way to describe that is like, so many people separate themselves from like abundance and prosperity, and put it on this pedestal, separate themselves from it, make it out to be some well, if I was this, then I'd be bad, or whatever people are doing. But instead of doing that, and then they're craving it simultaneously. It's like they hate it but crave it, and then feel guilty and shame for like wanting it. All these kinds of weird dramas or whatever. And so instead of constantly separating yourself from that, you connect with I am, which is abundant. And you can look into the Bible for those kinds of states of consciousness where you become one with, the attributes that are true of our Creator are true of our soul, on some level, because we are made in that same image on some level. And so the Bible describes God being prosperous, having more abundance than like the cows on 1,000 hills or something like that. So because that's part of the nature of love, that's also part of the nature of who you are, because you are not fear. And so part of moving into your new identity is living in that end goal of just feeling that way now. Same thing with like health and wellness. It's like, I just got my other hip replaced. So it's like I got my left hip replaced a year ago. I got this one replaced, my right side, 5 weeks ago. And in that whole process, there was like a whole, there's so much drama with that. It's like a lot of fears of death, a lot of like, oh, what if this happens? Oh, what if I get a blood clot? Oh, am I having a weird chest sensation? Am I having a heart attack? Am I having this? Am I having that? It really gave me a lot of like insight to maybe some of the people that might be like suffering from like the vax, the safe, effective side effects and shit that people could be dealing with. I think a lot of that is just nocebo suggestions. I almost could point it out like on a spectrum where it's just like, when COVID first started, I think a lot of people, took that nocebo suggestion of like, fearing some existential problem, which then plants the seed of sickness within them, which then as they believe in and believe that that could be a problem for them, then next thing you know, it starts manifesting, it can start to spiral, etc. Well, the people that didn't believe that, now all of a sudden, take this like this placebo basically, and now the same people that have been hysterical about death and like sickness and whatever, as more and more people start like flipping the switch, is like, well, COVID is no longer a problem, but the real problem is, fill in the blank. Well, then they start believing those nocebo suggestions, and then all of a sudden starts to spiral. And this is not coming from an expert or anything. This is coming from somebody that easily survived COVID, and I don't get fucking sick. I don't take these shots or whatever, flu shot, any of that kind of shit. It's like I don't just, I'm whatever's to some germ or whatever. I don't even think germ theory is a very sound theory. It's like if you just like get into that rabbit hole, for example, a lot of like this idea of like communicable disease starts becoming very shaky. And it's like, well, Mike, you can pull out a virus and look at it. It's like, can you? Have they? Have they been able to do that? Or are they just looking at side effects of different things? It's, the idea of popping pills to fix problems, I believe, is just like a form of magic, pharmakia, and with that, it's like, again, it's your faith and belief that makes it work. That's what I believe. It doesn't mean that that's necessarily the reality. That's just where I'm coming from. And so when people are taking these shots and shit, I believe it's activating on faith. And so and that placebo nocebo kind of pendulum, it swings both ways. And so when it comes to like any of these like types of like, oh, blood clots and myocarditis and heart issues and side effects and whatever, I think a big part of that is planting those seeds of fear of death, fear of worst case scenarios happening, fear of undesirable happening, separateness, oh, I'm separate from my body and then I'm a victim to it, all these kinds of things, and even experiencing symptoms is an opportunity to check your beliefs. Because if you start having like a weird, like maybe a sensation in your chest or something, what's the first thought that comes to mind? I'm dying. Oh, I'm having a heart attack. Oh, I'm having worst case scenario. Is it, oh, maybe I just got a burp. Maybe it's just gas. Maybe it's nothing. Who knows? And I'm not telling you what to do or anything. This is what I'm doing. And whenever I'm faced with these kinds of issues, with my whole fucking legs and shit for the past, like, I don't know, probably 3 weeks after the surgery, just being like a wreck, it's just like having to use like a walker to fucking get around and shit. Like a lot of that, it's like, okay, well, I have faith that like someday I'll be able to run and walk and not be like handicapped from this fucking surgery. It's weird how a lot of the times it's like a buddy of mine from church, he's like getting a neck procedure done. He got like a shot or something. and he's getting another one in a couple days, but he's just like, yeah, it's, I was like texting him or whatever, see how he's doing, and he's just like, yeah, it's weird that, part of like a healing process is you have to like get like wrecked and then get better. So it's like, I don't know why that is. That's an interesting thing to think about, because even in like weightlifting and exercise, it's like you have to put a, like you have to get sore or whatever. I mean, it's like you increase the load until it's like almost a failure. I wouldn't say it's like you have to or anything. I'm not a fitness expert or anything. It is something I'm into, but like it's like you do progressively more, and that's when with physical therapy, it's like, oh, today I did half a mile, now I'm doing a mile, now I'm doing 2 miles, and it's like you see how that works. Even stretching, I feel like a lot of just moving in a metaphysical direction and changing states can be compared to like stretching, where it's like you go right up into the fear barrier, right up until that limiting belief starts to manifest in your mind. It's like, wow, I can't barely touch my knee today. And then you try it, and then there's like a fear, like, oh, you don't want to pop your hip out. Oh, you don't want to rip and tear this. Oh, you don't want to do this. Oh, you don't want to overdo it, etc. Well, right where that limiting belief starts is when you start to renew your mind and change that belief, saying, oh, no, I'm healed now. I'm perfect. My body's perfect. And I'm going to do more and more and demonstrate that. Part of like the manifestation process, as far as I'm concerned, is renewing the mind with a new belief of like, oh, I am healed. I'm perfect. There's nothing wrong with me. And then taking action to prove it to yourself. So for example, it's like, oh, I can walk a mile. Maybe the first thought is like, no, you can't. You just had surgery. Your fucking legs are weak. It hurts. You're in pain. You should sit and rest and not do nothing and just sit in a corner in the dark. And it's like, no, I'm going to do this. And as you start taking those actions, you'll be faced with those thoughts of like, okay, maybe you're overdoing it. Maybe you're doing this. Maybe you're doing that. But in the face of that, you start to embody more and more so of what does God say about what is going on. It's like, God's the source of my healing. I am one with that healing right now. I'm not going to let fear enslave me in this moment. I'm going to do more than I did yesterday. Every day I'm getting better. And it's like you can only implant into the subconscious mind stuff that you barely above what you can currently handle, what you can believe. It's like you can't go from, well, I'm going from a walker to running a marathon tomorrow. It's too big of a gap in consciousness. It's like, if you could honestly believe that, and you could honestly, without a doubt, think that, you probably could. It's like, but with my spiritual journey of like bringing things into reality, doing different things, it's always that just a hair above where you feel comfortable, right where that resistance is. Just you go a little bit above it, and then you can actually tackle it. It's like maybe it would be something comparable. Climbing a mountain, maybe. It's like before you climb Everest, it's like you would think that you start at something like a small hill where you can like start to practice and get good at it before you can like tackle it. So you have to get there in consciousness on some level. And like when it comes to like people's fear addictions, that's changing the perception of like an event. Like it's weird because you can see these current events of just whatever. Oh, did you hear about the gays having sex in the Senate room or whatever? It's like, what? It's like, and that might be a far out example, but everybody's going to perceive that differently. Some people think that's going to be empowering. Some people are like, oh man, they're so brave. Meanwhile, other people will be like, well, this is part of the LGBT mind control programming. Some of the truther shit. Where it's just like, oh, it's got to be some Machiavellian thing. But my critique of anybody in that mindset and like the truth, or there's like some elite doing some Machiavellian thing, pulling all these puppet strings. It's like, have you ever started a business and realized how much of a clusterfuck everything is? It's like, it's unreal, the incompetence level of people. It's weird. It's like you could tell somebody like, I need you to take this screwdriver and I need you to put it in the garage in the toolbox. And like 5 minutes later, it's like, why would I find this in the back of the truck? When I told you to go do it, you said, okay, I'm going to go do that, and then you left. You came back, and now it's like the only thing I asked you to do is bring this to the toolbox, but it's still in the car. Even though, where did you go? What did you do? Are you on? Did you go fucking on a roadie and get high and come back and forget what you're doing? But that kind of shit happens so regularly and so frequently. I don't think a lot of people that might just be like an employee or whatever really see that, because they're like what's that word? Carpentmentalized? That's not right. I don't know what that. How do you fucking say that? It's like they're in like a little fucking. All they see is their little job. I don't see the bigger picture. Compartmentalized. I think that sounds better. That maybe they don't see that kind of incompetence, but and it only level. And the more you level up your shit, the more that you see how fucking just like, oh my god, this is so chaotic, and just the idea that, yeah, you can like put out propaganda, you can put out a narrative, you can do this, you can do that, but ultimately we're in a free will realm, and it's people's lack of faith that ultimately does it to them. It's their sin, it's their fucking lack of faith, it's their own beliefs and assumptions that cycle back, and it's their inability to take responsibility for their own thoughts, beliefs, that what they're fucking speaking, all this shit. That is what does it. It's easy sometimes to see that if you're like around people that are like really filled with drama, and it's like, oh, everything is just chaos all the time. It's like, oh, the cops were over here, and how dare they arrest my child? And it's like, yeah, but your child was like holding a knife and like threatening to assault people. It's like, you don't see how that played a role in the fucking situation? Well, it's like because they're racist or whatever. It's like, okay, if that's what you want to think. To them, and the crazy part is, like, to them, it's like they're probably right, on some level. I mean, they're not coming from nowhere with it. But, that's how the victim mind works. It's constantly pointing to somebody else and just, like, sugarcoating their own role in the situation. I was, like, listening to Dr. Drew, which, I grew up listening to Loveline on the radio, and so it's like I like listening to his podcast. He's got on YouTube, Rumble, all these different places, and one of the things that he specializes in is an addiction, and they were talking about like the homeless problem in LA specifically, and how easy the government has made it to be like a drug addict, which has the unintended consequence of perpetuating more drug addiction, which leads to more people overdosing and dying. And what he was saying is like there's a part of addiction where it's like you can't see how you're taking these drugs or whatever is destroying you. And I think that translates to a lot of like fear addiction and drama addiction, where it's just like you don't see how your own beliefs and your own actions are contributing to your own fucking low vibe. I think there's something to that, because it's like as you start to break these addictions, you start to realize lots of things are addictions, and not everything is a bad addiction. Some things serve you, and it's stuff that you just do on a cycle that's positive, that's a benefit to your life. It's these negative addictions and these things that bring you down, that lower your vibe, that ultimately kind of destroy your body and your fucking relationships and other things. Those are the real problems. And it's like, oh, waiting for this savior, waiting for somebody to save you from this, from your own seeds that you're planting, is a big a part of the victim mind, part of the truther mindset of like, oh, well, we're in a prison planet and there's nothing we can do and we're just slaves in the matrix and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, the only thing that you're a slave of is a slave to fear, which you don't need to be and you don't have to be. If you actually listen to the things that Jesus said to do and put it to the test and try it, you'd realize that you're a slave to nothing. It's like you can be, do, and have anything that you want, that you desire or whatever, because all that you really desire is to experience love. But what the world likes to do is do it backwards, where it's like, well, first I get the external, shit in the mirror, then I can feel a certain way. It's backwards. It's like first you feel a certain way, you become one with the I am that is already that. You merge with that in consciousness, and then as you do, then you start getting led down a bridge of incidents, then things start to happen, as you start taking these new actions. But it's like so much of like the victim mindset is like, oh, I need to do anything. I need somebody to do it for me. Oh, I just need to trust the plan. Oh, then Trump's going to save me. It's like, okay, that's part of the problem is we have a society of people that don't want to do shit other than want, somebody else to save them. Oh, it's like, oh, I'll do these streams and then I'll have some billionaire that wants to finance me, and then I'll save me from my own financial shit, even though I'm going to push away a lot of the abundance and push away prosperity and talk about how, it's some Babylonian magic spell tokens or whatever. It's the same thing. I've heard that shit with like people with Bitcoin and investing, and it's like, I like to trade Forex and I like to trade Bitcoin on some level. I've gotten into it at least, but not for any type of reason other than, it's just planting more seeds. It's just like, as you start to just plant these different seeds, they start getting these returns. And it's like, I like to day trade the pound dollar, for example. I feel like putting attention on currency helps value it, and I think that's a benefit for other people. Oh, Mike, don't you know that currency is evil and this, and it's like, what I think about currency, I think it's all based on faith. Owen Benjamin was like talking about that on Twitter. He was like going on this big it's like a rant, I guess, of this like, oh, the only currency that's real is gold and silver. It's like, gold and, even these shiny rocks are all determined by Forex, a market that goes up and down, that actually gives value. It's like all currency is based on faith. If you're in jail, for example, your currency would be ramen noodles and stamps. It's like, and then like if you're rich, you got a whole fucking pile of ramen noodles or something. It's just like, oh, I got a little store of like fucking chips and ramen noodles. I'm a millionaire in here. And it's all a construct. And it's like if you watch any type of like thing about like jungle culture, people that are like in the jungle. I used to be so obsessed with that. And I think that's like another a trick, of like, oh, the grass is greener if you lived out in the jungle and you'd be under natural law, because you're always under natural law. It's like the matrix level of control and whatever. There's only one law that goes on, and it's like whether you live in the jungle or you live in the fucking society. You're still operating under the laws of God. And so, but with that, it's like I was like watching these like jungle people or whatever. I don't remember if it's in South America or I don't know where the fuck, some jungle. But their currency was like banana leaves, and they'd sit there and collect the banana leaves, and then they'd braid them into braided banana leaves. Like the women would do that all day as the men were out hunting, and then they would trade the banana leaves for other things. And it's like, well, if you just go out to the jungle, you can make unlimited banana leaf braids, and it just worked for them for whatever reason. But I don't look at currency as any different. It's just a convenient way to trade energy, and that's all I look at as currency as, is a current of energy exchange. And the more value you give to others, the more that you're compensated in return by currency. And that's just my own beliefs, and I see that working through my business, my handyman business especially. It's like the more that you do something of value, the bigger problem that you solve for somebody else, the more value you get in return, in the form of cash, money, whatever. Sometimes trade, I got a vehicle on trade. I did a job for somebody and they traded me a car. Just as good for me, but if someone offered me a stack of gold, I'd probably take it if the fucking system was alive and well, and I can exchange it for some currency I could buy groceries with, or pay for my electric bill with, or any of that kind of shit. But it's just like the constant, well, if the system collapses, you're going to be safe sitting on a big pile of silver and gold. It's like, bro, I wouldn't fucking fix your house for a pile of silver and gold. I might take your car and gas before that. I would definitely take your car and gas before I took a fucking pile of shiny rocks. If I can't exchange it for anything else, it's fucking worthless to me. Oh, Mike, don't you know that gold is a conductive material? It's like, yeah, so is copper, and so is these. It's like I get it, but at the same time, even with like Forex, it's like all of these things are already interconnected in a system of finance. And people want to ignore that or whatever to live in this like, well, the dollar is backed by nothing. It's like it's backed by the fucking forex market. It's backed by the way it's all interconnected already, and like not acknowledging that is what I feel like is not acknowledging reality or what is true. That's what bothers me about it, because I care about like what is true, and I used to be in that fucking thing. Oh, it's. And I get how much of a fucking Ponzi scheme the banking system is, with like being able to loan out money they don't have, fractional reserve banking. Listen, I get it, I understand, but it's the current system. Unless you are like, okay, I see this as a problem. Okay, are you going to do something about it to solve the problem, or are you just going to bitch that you're a victim to this? If you're just going to bitch about it and just be like, oh, I'm a victim to this, I don't have the time and patience to fucking care what you got to say, because I live in a reality of like, okay, there's a problem. This is what I'm going to do about it, and I'm going to solve that problem. That's it. It's like that's part of like the business mindset is the bigger problem that you can solve, the more of a value it is. It's that simple. It's like, for anybody looking to start a business, it's like, okay, what can you do to serve somebody else right now? That could be your business. It's like, whether that's cutting their hair, whether that's painting their house, whether that's like fixing their toilet, whether that's like growing their portfolio, whether that's providing entertainment, whether that's whatever it is. It's like, what are you doing for society? The bigger problem that you can solve, the more you'll be rewarded. And that's just the system we live in. And it's the same thing, when it comes to checking your mindset about all these different things too, because there can be so many blocks that can keep you stuck at a certain level of like service. It's like, okay, well, I want to do this, I want to do that, but I can't get a loan. Oh, I can't get this. All these problems. It's like, well, what can you do? It's like, stop living in like, oh, if I just had a $200,000 loan, then I could do this and I could do that. It's like, okay, if you had $200,000, I guarantee you the same problems that you have right now at like maybe $200 will only become more magnified and more of a fucking amplified problem. Nobody wants to hear that, because people want to live in a thought that their life isn't a reflection of consciousness, when it is a reflection of consciousness. You have exactly what you can steward in consciousness right here, right now. And anything more than that, if you don't have it in consciousness, you will amplify fear, really. So it's like the lotto mindset. Oh, if I just won the lottery, then I'd be so happy. Then I would have made it. Then all my problems would be gone. It's like, nope. Because what will happen is you're going to get all this fucking shit, and your fears of loss will get amplified. Your fears of victim will be amplified. All of these fears that exist right here, right now, which is already reflective of what you can handle in consciousness now, will only become more amplified. You can see that if you trade in the financial markets, versus like, oh, if I just had a 10K account, then I'd be able to make all this profit or whatever. Then the mindset is, oh, well, if I just had a 100K account, then I could just make, where I made $100 on a $1,000 account, I would make $1,000 on a 100K account. But the problem is, if you can't scale a 1K account, you ain't going to scale a 100K account. You're going to do the same stupid shit and I'm speaking from experience. It's like, you're going to do the same stupid gambly shit, whatever. You're not waiting for your signals. You're not doing what you need to do to be profitable. And you know what you're doing, and then next thing you know, oh, blown that account. Oh, it wasn't my decisions. It must be that this thing's rigged. Oh, it must be whatever the fucking excuse is. And those excuses is what you need to start to check. And when you start to check them, you need to start to replace those thoughts of victim consciousness, the fear addiction, the drama addiction. Oh, it's always somebody else. Oh, it's the market doing it to me. Oh, I'm getting humbled by the market. It's like you're being humbled by your fucking cause and effect. It's like, get that through your head. It's like everything that's happening is cause and effect. You are originating this shit unconsciously, because you aren't aware of the power of your beliefs and your assumptions. If you are assuming you're a victim, God will create a fucking mirrored image back to you in your life that confirms that. And the problem is, that downward spiral ends in death. It ends in fucking drama. It ends in undesirable shit. It ends in fear. But, and it ends in slavery, ultimately. You're a slave to your own self. You're a slave to your own beliefs of bullshit that aren't even real. And you can start to test what I'm saying by starting to renew your mind in the small things. If it's just your body, for example, it's like losing weight is a good example. Over the course of like 2 years, preparing for the surgery and everything else, I was at one point over 200 pounds. When I had the surgery, I think it was 157 is what I weighed in at with clothes on. So probably about 155 without clothes, without shoes and shit. I don't know what I weigh right now. Hopefully going to go to the Y here. I have to get cleared to go swimming because I guess swimming in public pools is a infection cesspool for surgical wounds. I would have thought, hey, with all the chlorine and all the chemicals and shit, it'd be kind of sterile or whatever, but nope. The doctor's like, oh hell no, don't even get into the pool until I tell you to, basically. And so I go to see him in like a week or so. So hopefully can start swimming again, which I feel like is very therapeutic and very helpful for joints and just flexibility and just overall well-being. But like maybe hit the treadmill or whatever. I don't think I'm allowed to start lifting weights with my legs yet. I'm just doing calisthenics with my own body weight. But like the thing with that is you start putting on the new identity of just being a fit, healthy person, because there's so many like mental programs that you don't even realize are running of like, feeling unattractive, feeling unhealthy, feeling like you're slowly dying, that you might be starting to like have aches and pains. Whatever the negative stories that you're starting to tell yourself on as you become like overweight. Oh, Mike, being big is beautiful. It's like, okay, well, if you have no resistance in your consciousness about it, who cares? But it's like when I was like at 200-ish pounds, those kinds of programs were going on in my head. It's like, I could have a heart attack. Oh, I could die. Oh, I could have this problem happen. Oh, I could start getting diabetes. Oh, I could start having joint issues. I could have this. I could fill in the blank. But as you start to embody who you are now, it's like, no, I'm healthy. I'm strong. I'm fit. I'm getting stronger every day. Those are good seeds to start to plant in your subconscious mind, which through taking new action is like, because you're gonna have resistance when you start to change those beliefs. That's why taking action starts to become more and more helpful, because you start to renew your mind through the doing, and you start to flip that switch. And as you start to flip that switch, then you start to see those seeds start to manifest more and more so, and you just like kind of walk into it in the present moment. You're always like being confronted by the past. It's only ever now, but these past beliefs and assumptions and actions are constantly unfolding in the present moment. And if you want to start to change those, you have to start to do something different in the present, which is part of breaking those addictions. Start to break these fucking spells that are keeping you locked in these states of mind that are no longer serving. And that's one of the problems I see with like the truth community in general, is just like, the past, where is like, you're constantly alone, you're constantly part of the outcast, whatever, always part of this victimhood, always part of like this, things are never going to improve, things are never going to get better. It's just like, okay, you're not a victim, and these people are not all powerful. Yeah, there are some people that want to like dominate and enslave other people. It's just the world we live in. I mean, look around. Go to a fucking jail. There's going to be people that want to fucking impose their will on people. That happens. It's like, okay. But knowing that, what can you do about it? Can you become stronger? Can you become less of a bitch? Can you do that? It's like, of course you can do that. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. And if I Excuseville, if I hear excuses from people, it's like, well, Mike, I'm in a wheelchair. I can't fucking do that. It's like, bullshit. You can do something. When I worked at the airport, I had to like, part of like my job or whatever is like overweight people, pushing them up the fucking jet ramp because they couldn't walk or whatever. Meanwhile, there's like this group of guys that came in fucking jacked, but they were in wheelchairs. They were doing something in town where I think it was like a race or a basketball game or something. I don't know. They were really fit, but they called me to the jet bridge to help with their bags. And all they wanted me to do is grab the fucking bag from the overhead and just strap it to the back of their wheelchair. And in the jet bridge, I mean, I don't know, that might be too much, but I mean, it was steep. And I asked him, I was like, do you need help up there? And he's like, hell no. And he just boom, boom, and he just fucking hauled ass the whole way up there. So it's like, I don't agree with these excuses of like, oh, you're in a wheelchair, so that means that you just need to be coddled and babied. Fuck that. It's like I've seen guys that were in that situation that weren't coddled and babied and act like a little bitch about it. So it's like that excuse doesn't hold any weight with me at all. But like, I kind of lost my train of thought because I just remembering that. It's just like, some people, it's just they're their own worst enemies. It's like, even if you're in a situation, does not mean you have to be a victim about it. It's like you can do something about it. And this constant like, oh, this they, it's like they're not making it's like they can just give you offers. Ultimately, we're in a free will realm, and ultimately they're the ones that are enslaved, and it's a sinking ship of like trying to grasp for people to just like draw them down with them, because that's what that satanic energy is all about, self-destruction. And you start to see that more and more manifest. It's not some they, it's the fucking people in your town, it's your people in your family even. It's like these are the they. It's like it's not some Machiavellian thing. It's just people that are just mind controlled, that are around you, that don't see a better way. That's why you got to be the better way and lead by example. You're just like, oh, you're in the truth community. Oh, you're going to just complain and bitch and just feel like a victim. It's like, okay, well, if it's all fake and fucking bullshit, then what are you doing about it? Just whining and crying about it. Not doing anything when you don't need the fucking thing, the system. It's like you don't need a big fucking loan to start a business. I can guarantee you with like $200, I could come to any fucking place on planet Earth and make a business with it. Guarantee you that. It's like there's not even a doubt in my mind about it. I could buy a Windex, I could buy a bucket, a fucking thing of soap, a squeegee, and a fucking thing. If I was in a city, I'd probably make $300 a day washing windows easily. It's not even a doubt. Not even washing businesses windows. Not fucking like a homeless person washing car windows. I'm talking just walking around under $50, having the ability to wash windows, easy. Buy a fucking paintbrush. I buy a $20 paintbrush and paint a room. You know what I mean? And so it's all your mindset. It's all about what you can do with what you have, and the idea that I need this gigantic gift, to make something happen is a fucking illusion. And hopefully that breaks that spell. Hopefully a lot of this is spell breaking on some level. The victim mindset. I would love to break that. That would be awesome. That'd be an awesome goal. For me is to break that mindset in people. Just because I feel like it's like a cancer, and it's ultimately not even real or true. And I care about what's true. And so with that being said, I think we're gonna bounce. I appreciate everybody liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking things. I appreciate you your attention for this song. Hopefully I was a good steward of it. Hopefully I gave you something to think about, to implement, hopefully to try in your own life, and put it to the test. I hope you'd put it to the test. And if you what was I going to say? Oh, yes, try to get some more guitar music out. And basically just do that for other people's benefit. Put in 432 hertz tuning, mainly because I feel like there's a healing energy to that frequency. If you look at the cymatics about 432 versus 440 hertz, there's a little bit more of a geometric patterning that happens when you see that frequency compared to standard tuning, which I feel like it probably has a benefit. It probably doesn't hurt. I don't know. I find it fascinating, and so that's why I do it. And if you have any suggestions for some tracks or whatever you would like to hear covered, put it in the description. I'll try to put that out for you or whatever. Try to think if there's anything else. I think that's about it. So until next time, thanks and God bless.